So this follows Eloise, and because of the events of the end of Romancing Mr. Bridgerton, she has been writing this guy named Hello everybody, my name is Kelsey, and we're about to get very, very nerdy with my November wrap-up. So it is time to talk about all the books that I read in November. I'm sure many of you were aware, but I was participating in a Believe-a-thon in the month of November, so I did vlog the entire month. Not all of my reading, because about half of the books that I read this month were from like my personal TBR, not like my Believe-a-thon TBR, so I didn't put anything that wasn't middle grade in those videos. So I will leave them linked down below if you'd like to check any of them out, but I'm going to be talking about more than just those books in today's video. Although I will say I don't have nearly as many as I usually do. I only read 10 books in the month of November. Now, like, I only read, that's still a lot of freaking books, but I'm usually in like the 12 range, at least I have been for the past few months, and November just, you know, I don't want to say I hit a slump, because like I didn't, but like there are some books here that just took a lot longer to get through than usual, and that happens. So yes, I have lots of things to talk about. Hopefully this video won't be nearly as long as it usually is, but by all means, get something hot to drink, snuggle down. We're gonna be here for a hot second. And I will chapter this video like I usually do if there's a specific book that you would like to see me talk about. So I feel like that's all I need to say, so let's just get right into it. Like I said, I did read 10 books, and of those 10 books, I read 3,761 pages, and that was over 3 audiobooks, 4 physical books, and 3 mixed books. My age category, kind of, you know, actually there's more middle grades this month than usual, obviously because of Believe-a-thon, so we had 5 middle grade, 2 YA, and 3 adult. My genres were pretty spread out. There were 3 mystery, 3 romance, 1 contemporary, 1 sci-fi, and 2 fantasy. But as far as my star ratings goes, I feel like it's safe to say that this has been the best month of the entire year, because we had 7 5-star reads, 2 4-star, and 1 3-star. So the first book that I finished in the month of November, I feel like I read this like in one day, I want to say. Like it was really quickly, and that was Pride and Premeditation by Tirza Price. This is exactly what it sounds like. It is kind of a reimagining of Pride and Prejudice by Jane Austen, but given it like a mystery twist. While reading this, I did find out that this is the first in a trilogy, so there are 2 more books, Sense and Self... Oh, I always get this title wrong. Sense and Secondary Murder, I think, which is coming out at the beginning of next year, and then Manslaughter Park is coming out the year after. Obviously, they're all mystery books based on Jane Austen stories, so none of them relate to each other, but like, I'm just very happy about it. So, I ended up giving this one 5 stars. Like I said, I read this in basically one day, and I still am in love with this story. So, this is not for like hardcore purists of Jane Austen. This was just pure fun, because she takes the story of Pride and Prejudice, like the general plot line, as far as like some of the things that happen with some of her characters, and actually really the only thing that she takes from the original is kind of like the love story. Like that's really about it, the hate to love aspects of this, but the rest of it is totally different. It follows Lizzie, who wants to be a barrister, which I interpret as basically like this world's equivalent of a lawyer, and so that's what her dad is, and she really wants that, but because she's a woman, the world doesn't look kindly on her, and so her dad basically like tells her that if she can convince him with like logic, then he'll let her do it. And so she's like, oh, the way to do this is to bring a really high client to this law firm. And so she hears about Bingley, and he has been accused of murdering his brother-in-law, and his lawyer is Darcy. And so she kind of gets mixed up in all of this, tries to get him as a client. It doesn't really go well, but she still like somehow gets involved in all this, and it's just pure fun, because like some of the things in here, like some of the characters that end up in different places, some people don't end up together in this book when they would in the original. Like it's just totally different, and I loved every second of it. I loved watching Lizzie figure all this stuff out. I felt like if you like kind of that like really headstrong aspects of the character of Lizzie from the original, you'll really like her in this because she's very much the same way. She's very much like, I'm gonna solve this thing and I'm gonna figure out how to do it, and like gets herself in all these crazy situations. So I adored this. And like, if you are like me and really hate Collins, you're gonna like this book. That's all I have to say. So there's so much about this that I loved. So I cannot wait to get my hands on the second one when it comes out next year, because like this author has a fan in me. Oh my goodness, I loved this so much. It was just pure fun. It was just straight up pure fun, and it was a lot of fun just to see all these characters that we've come to love or hate in different situations. And I thought it was a very well done reimagining. I loved it so much. Okay. The next two I'm going to do together because they are part of the same series, and this is going to look really similar to the beginning of last month because I have 2 Bridgerton books to talk about because I have a problem. So I read what is this one, the 4th? Yes, the 4th book, which is Romancing Mr. Bridgerton, which follows Colin Bridgerton, and then the 6th one, which is To Sir Philip with Love, and this one is following Eloise. These two are just a lot of fun. I did end up giving them both 5 stars, though looking back on it now, I'm feeling like this one, there were aspects of it that I had a problem with. So, Romancing Mr. Bridgerton, like I said, follows Colin, who is the 3rd son, and Penelope, who is the best friend of Eloise. And this takes place like 10 years after the first book, so they are significantly older, and like Penelope, I think, is 28 at this point, and so she has accepted the fact that she is going to be a spinster. And she's been in love with Colin basically her entire life. And it's the two of them and the situations they get in. And if you've seen the TV show, you know there's a big secret with these characters, and it comes out in this book. And it was just really cool to see. I will say, so I'm very conflicted on this because Penelope is my favorite heroine so far. Like, even though I've read this one, she is still my favorite heroine. I love her so much. She's sweet. She must be protected at all costs. However, Colin really annoyed me in this book because he did things that I felt weren't him. Like, it felt like to me, Julia Quinn was trying to give him other layers beyond the fact that he has just been known as like this nice kid. He's always nice, very sweet, very like smiles a lot, very happy, and that's just kind of very one-sided. And so I feel like she was trying to give him more depth, but went way too far with it, because some of the things that Colin did and the way that Colin reacted to certain situations, I felt like was very unrealistic for him as a character. So very conflicted on this because, again, I love Penelope. Colin kind of pissed me off. So I still enjoyed it, still gave it 5 stars. And then this one, which follows Eloise. Now, if you have read, what is it? I'm literally about to talk about it next. The Governess Game by Tessa Dare. Then I think you'll like this because just some plot things are very similar. Some of the situations that we get in are very similar. I will say that you do need to read Romancing Mr. Bridgerton because these kind of go together. This takes place like right at the end of this one. And the events of that book kind of influence what happens here. So this follows Eloise, like I mentioned. She is the 5th. Say right? Is that how the alphabet works? Yeah, she's the 5th child of the Bridgertons, but she is the 2nd oldest daughter, and she has been writing this guy named Sir Philip. He is a cousin of theirs for the past year, and some circumstances that they get in, he was married to one of their cousins who unfortunately died, and so that's what sparked this conversation, and he basically invites her to come stay with him because he needs a mother for his 2 ridiculous children who are just out here to make life awful for people. Mostly their governesses. And so she comes not realizing that they are children, and she just kind of like shows up on his doorstep one day and says, "Hello, I'm here now." So it's the 2 of them. And I loved seeing this because, like I said, there's a lot of similarities plot-wise to The Governess Game, but it was just really interesting because, like, Eloise is older now. She's 28. She's kind of accepted the fact that she's going to be a spinster, and then all of a sudden she's changed her mind a little bit, and she's not as headstrong, in my opinion, as she was in like the original few books, but I feel like she's gotten older, and because of that, she's, you know, has siblings who have children, and so she's the fun aunt, and so she's been around kids before, and that kind of like calmed her down a little bit. And so I feel like is some stuff in here that like I could see some people being annoyed with and not as believable for the character of Eloise, but I personally didn't mind it. I thought it worked really well because, like I said, she's gotten older, she still, you know, has had kids around her entire life basically and knows how to deal with them. So I thought this was really cute. I loved seeing the two of them. I'm very happy about it. So this one got 5 stars as well. So yes, I finished the next 2 in the Bridgerton series. So when will I get around to the rest? Who the heck knows? I've kind of reached a point where like all the Bridgertons I care about, minus one, I've heard stories. Like I've already read their stories. So like now we only have like the 3 youngest ones, and like we don't know a whole lot about them. They're just kind of been in the background. So like I haven't come to care about them yet. So we'll get around to them at some point. And then, like I mentioned, the next one that I finished was The Governess Game by Tessa Dare. So this was the buddy read that I do monthly with my friends Taylor and Brooke. This is our, you know, we've been reading a bunch of Tessa Dare books. So this is the last in the Girl Meets Duke series. So we've now all read all of those. So we're going to be moving on to a different series. This is a reread for me, so I did end up giving this one 5 stars, but I will say that this time around, I enjoyed it a lot more, and I think that is because there's connections now. I think I wasn't really as focused with this one as I was with like other books in the series when I read this the first time. When I read this recently, I fell in love. I think because this is part of the Girl Meets Duke series, which follows 4 friends and each of their respective romances. There's only 3 out currently, but I didn't realize that. I thought this was just 4 girls who fell in love with dukes basically, but there is a connection. And so now that I know there's a connection, it was cute seeing all the friends in this book, especially after the first book, because you see just some of the things that happened after that, and now that you know those characters, they mean something more to you, and it's just, I don't know, I liked seeing them. I liked this romance. It was so freaking cute. So this follows Alex, who is obsessed with astronomy. So she is currently kind of making money as like, I don't even know what it's called, but basically she comes into people's houses and fixes their clocks and like makes sure that they're all like, I guess, tuned. Kind of like people come in and tune a piano, she tunes these clocks. And so that's what she's doing at this duke's house. And he mistakes her for a governess. And so she gets hired as a governess for these 2 wards that he has. And it's their relationship. It's his relationship with these girls. It's just everything about them. And I loved every second of it because I don't know, it was really nice seeing these characters and seeing, like, reading this with people who hadn't read this book before and seeing their reactions to things and like being reminded of stuff or being shown things that I had, you know, not really picked up on the first time. But it got 5 stars. It was a lot of fun. If I can remember, I don't remember when I read it, but I'll leave the wrap up above if you want to see my original thoughts on it because it only improved. Alright, now we're getting into the middle grade books. So like I said, I will leave all of those vlogs down below if you'd like to see more in-depth real-time thoughts. But the first one that I read was Beasts and Beauty, Dangerous Tales by Soman Chainani. This is his newest book that just came out a couple of months ago, and I freaking love this book. It got 5 stars as well. So this is literally a collection of fairy tales and children's stories that we all know: Snow White, Sleeping Beauty, Rumpelstiltskin, Peter Pan, you know, those kinds of stories. And it's just those stories, but twisted a little bit, made a little bit darker, and just kind of different somehow. And what I like about that is that while they are darker and a little bit different, Soman has also like diversified them, both race, cultural, sexuality. Like there's everything in this book. And I just really enjoyed seeing like a twist on these very well-known stories and just given like a different take on them. And so I think this will be really, really good for, you know, younger kids, older middle grade kind of age range, where they can see themselves and like these stories that they know and love. So I thought it was really well done. I loved the way he writes. I think he's really, really good at being that kind of storyteller. There's one thing that I noticed about this while I was reading it is that there are no like quotation marks around when people are talking. It is like something, comma, says whoever said it. And so that gives it this very storytelling aspect, like you were by a fire being told this story. So of course, they're not going to have quotation marks while they're talking, like, quote, something, something, something. Like, they're not going to say that. So I thought that that actually lended very well to that storytelling aspect. I can understand why that would annoy a ton of people. So, like, I get it. But with me, I felt like it worked really well. I loved this. I thought these were very inventive, very interesting looks on these stories that we have known our entire lives, and I just really liked it. They are dark at times, so that's why I think it's good for like upper middle grade, but it was so good. It was so good. So the next one I ended up picking up was Risked by Margaret Patterson Haddix. This is the 6th in her Missing series. This is the one that I ended up giving 3.5 stars to. I am not sure what it was about this book. I mean, there's a few things. I listened to this on audio, and I really didn't like the audiobook narrator. Now, it's been quite a few months between this book and the 5th book in the series, like between when I read it. So I don't know if I've been reading a lot of like adult books, and so like the writing was different in my head, but like I didn't like it. I thought it was really patronizing. I thought the writing was really simple for some reason, and like it annoyed me. But I will say the audiobook narrator really did annoy me. I thought he was super patronizing. Like, just the way he was telling the story, it felt like he was talking down to you, and like I realize that this book is made for kids, but like, come on, dude. So I really didn't like him. That might have really impacted my enjoyment of this story, but I mean, it was still good. Like, it still had its moments. I felt like this one is a relatively short one for this series, and I felt like the ending wrapped up rather quickly. Like, it was go, 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 and then it stopped, which is very similar to how she writes this series, but sometimes there are lulls in the story, and there just weren't in this one. It was just kind of like, and there's no breathing, and it's very rushed, and now we're done. It's like, wait, what? So this is the 6th in the series, so I can't really tell you a whole lot. I know that's getting annoying every time I bring up these books. I literally can't say a daggum thing. But this follows, the first one at least, follows 2 kids, Jonah and Chip, and they both have been adopted and have started receiving these weird like messages in their like mailbox for them. And so they start to investigate where they came from, kind of who their biological parents are. So the 2 of them, and then Jonah's adoptive sister, Catherine. And things happen at the end of this book, which just kind of like explodes this entire world and really sets the tone for the rest of the series. So it's very well done. I really liked it. It had its moments, but for some reason this one annoyed me a lot. So I'm not sure, but I'll pick up the next one again. I still want to finish it because there's only like 2 books left in the series, and the big overarching like big question that I still need to know apparently gets revealed in the next book, and I need to know. So I'll read the next one at some point, probably sooner rather than later, and then we'll see about the last one. But you know, I'm glad I read it because I'm one step closer to figuring out what the heck's going on with this one thing. The next book I read, I seriously raved about this for so long, but it is Song for a Whale by Lynn Kelly. This one got 5 stars. So this one follows our main character, Iris, who is the only deaf kid in her school. And she has an interpreter with her, but it's not easy because you have people, like teachers, who look down on her and just kind of like are real jerks, to be honest. And she learns about this whale called Blue 55, which is basically a whale that speaks at a different frequency than the rest of blue whales. And therefore, he's alone. He's kind of a loner on his own, doesn't really connect with anyone because he can't really speak to anyone. And so she really connects with that. So she's very like radio brained. In her free time, she fixes broken radios and brings it back to kind of like, not a junk shop, but kind of like a junk shop, and obviously gets paid for it. And so she's really into that kind of stuff, and so she comes up with this way that she thinks she can communicate with this whale and goes on an adventure. And it's really well done. I personally really enjoyed it. Lynn Kelly is actually an interpreter, an ASL interpreter herself, so it was really cool to see someone who kind of knew this world a little bit, and also the fact that Blue 55 is based on a real whale, which I did know going into this book, but I thought Blue 55 was a real whale, but it just happens to be based on it. And that whale, I think, is called like Blue Hertz 52 or something like that. 52 Blue, I was close, because he speaks at a 52 frequency when all the other whales, I want to say, like normally speak at like 25 or something. Maybe I made that up, but he speaks very differently than other whales. And so it was really interesting to see. I don't know, it was really fascinating. I loved the character of Iris. I loved her family dynamic because you have a mom so her mother's parents are both deaf. And so her mom's always learned ASL, and so she can speak really well with her mother. She can speak really well with her brother who's learned it, but her dad has had a lot of trouble, and so he doesn't speak fluently in ASL, and so there's this communication barrier between them. And so that's a little bit of an issue. There's a lot of things in this book that are really interesting, and I freaking love the story. So if you want just a good contemporary that is just like make you happy, then go for this one. It is so worth it. I loved this. I loved it so much. I then followed that up with The Strangers by Margaret Patterson Haddix. This is the first in a new series by her. I think there's only going to be 3. This follows the 3 siblings, Chess, Emma, and Finn, and they are all like in middle school. Chess is in 5th grade, Emma is in 4th grade, and Finn, I think, is in 2nd grade, if that's right. Is that right? Maybe some along that lines. So this book really starts off, like, right at chapter 1. Like, seriously, off with a bang. And 3 other kids with these same first and middle names and birthdays as these 3 kids go missing. And it really puts their mom in this weird headspace, and then she goes off on a work trip. And they're trying to figure out where their mom is because they don't actually believe that she's gone off on this work trip. And so, as Margaret Patterson Haddix does, there's a big old freaking sci-fi fantasy twist. And this book, it's about the middle of the book. And it is a little bit, I kind of expected that to be what was going on, but I'm so interested to see because this left off on such a big, cliffhanger. I need answers. I need freaking answers. I freaking love this book. I don't really know what to say except for the fact that I really enjoyed it. It does take place in all 3 of these kids' perspectives. It kind of like rotates, and they all are really good at different things because Finn is so innocent that he can kind of like look past the worry and get to what's going on. And then Chess is just worried about like protecting his siblings. But Emma is very math-brained, and so she is good at like deciphering things and figuring out patterns and stuff. And so the 3 of them work really well together, plus this other girl who's one of their friends. And so, like, it's the 4 of these kids trying to figure out what the heck is going on with the mom. And it is plot twist after plot twist after mystery after, like, literally, I'm not even kidding you, first page I was sucked in. I don't know what it was about the writing. I don't know if the writing is just better because it's coming from different perspectives than in the Missing series. Maybe I just really don't like the main character in that book. But like, I don't know what it was, but literally on the first page, I was immediately sucked into the story. I could not stop listening and reading this book. But if you like a good mystery, like you're just solving and trying to figure out what's going on, like this is the book for you. Oh, I liked it so much. So I need to get my hands on the second one because I need answers. The next one that I picked up was The Inheritance Games by Jennifer Lynn Barnes. This is the first in a trilogy by this author, and we follow our main character Avery, who has come from a pretty rough background, and then all of a sudden she gets contacted by the grandson of this man called Tobias Hawthorne, and he is a billionaire. He's got all of the money in the entire world, and he has just passed away and left her everything. Basically cut his entire family out of the will. But this is a family of puzzles and like trying to figure things out. Like this grandfather always did these types of things with the family and the 4 grandsons. So it's Avery coming into this life that no one wants her in and is really confused because she's never met this man before and just kind of figuring out what's going on. So I have very conflicting feelings on this book, and I don't know, I'm so confused. I could not stop reading this book. There's something about her writing and there's something about her plot development with the mystery and like all these puzzles that they're trying to figure out what's going on that is so enticing, and like you cannot stop reading. But like nothing about the plot is particularly extraordinary. Honestly, most of the characters are the most annoying people in the entire world. Our main character is 17 and she feels younger, and at times is like ridiculously smart, and then other times is real stupid. So like there's nothing about the characters I like. My favorite character is the bodyguard, and he really doesn't have any huge point in the plot, like as far as the games goes. And like I just I don't care about any of the people in here, but I cannot stop reading because I need to know the connection. And like, they're trying to figure out why Avery was given all this money, basically, is what's happening here. And then there's a huge plot twist at the end of this one, which sets off the events for the second book. And like, I don't care about the characters. Honestly, they all annoy me. They're all awful. But I need to know the answers, you know? And so like, I legit can't stop reading these books. It's the most confusing feelings I have ever had about it. Like, I don't even know what to think. Because like, what? Anyway, I loved it. It got 4.5 stars, and I'm obsessed with the second one already. But like, something could happen to all these characters and I would be okay with it. And then I finished off the month with 13 Curses by Michelle Harrison, which is the second in her 13 Treasures series. So I can't say a whole lot about this one because it is the second in a series, and kind of the events of this plot really get kicked off from what happens at the very, very, very end of the first book. But this takes place in a world where fairies are real. They're not the nice, little, pretty, happy fairies you're thinking of. They're, like, kind of evil. I mean, they're not, but, like, they're mischievous, let's say. And at least the first one follows our main character, Tanya, and she can see fairies. But, like, her mom obviously doesn't believe her and thinks she's just making some stuff up, so she sends her away to live with her grandmother for a few months, or a few weeks in the summer. And that really spurs this entire plot because, like, she's trying to hide the fact that she can see fairies, but then there's also this mystery surrounding a girl who disappeared 50 years ago that her grandmother knew that is somehow connected to, like, the groundskeeper and his family. And so his son is Tanya's age, and they kind of, like, are trying to figure out what's going on. So it's the two of them and that mystery. And then there's a side character in that book that we meet about halfway through, and her plot line really gets started in this book. And so I gave this one 4 stars. It just hit 4 stars because, like, while it was good, I did enjoy it. I didn't care until about halfway through the book because the plot that's kind of explained here on the back doesn't really start until about halfway through the book, and, like, that was the part I was the most interested in. But you needed the first half to, like, set everything up. So basically what happened was, like, Tanya was in one place, this person was in a different place, and, like, they were both respectively having things happen that would make sense for when they, like, came together. And when those two plot lines came together, that's when I started caring. Like, that's when I was invested in what was going on. But you needed all of that setup, you know, to, like, get everything figured out. And I don't know, like, it was very confusing. Like, I'm still confused on how I think about it because I enjoyed it. I did. But I feel like I only cared once, like, there's kind of like a quest in this book, and once the quest started, that's when I started caring. But I did enjoy this. I'm not sure if I liked it more than the first one. Maybe a little bit? I don't know. Maybe I'd come to know these characters better, so we didn't need a lot of, like, lead into who they were. But I will say this wrapped up quite well, and I don't know where we can go. Like, I read the synopsis of the third book, and I feel like we don't need it. So I'm curious to see how that one's gonna go. Like, I mean, I'll still read it, obviously. I like these characters. I'm still gonna continue to read it, but I don't know if it was needed. You know, like, I feel like the story was good. Like, if you're done with these characters in this book, you can stop, I feel like is what I'm trying to say. But I still enjoyed it. It still got 4 stars. I'm very excited to continue with this at some point. This is a buddy read with my friend Teresa. So once, like, after probably once we hit the new year, we might start the third one. We'll see. But I enjoyed it. I did. But I didn't care until about halfway. You know? I have very confusing feelings is what I'm saying. And that's it. Those are all the books that I picked up and read in the month of November, except for technically 13 Curses I finished in, like, the 1st of December, but, like, I had, like, 50 pages left. It counts. I'm saying it counts, you know? My book, my rules. But I hope that you guys enjoyed this video. Let me know if you read or heard anything about any of the books that I have mentioned in this video, or something that you read in November that you just loved, hated, need to rant about, need to rave about. I am here to listen. Let me be your book therapist. That might be a little much. But I do hope that you liked this video, and if you did, don't forget to give it a big thumbs up and subscribe down below if you want to be part of this awesome growing family. I've also got all my social media down there, as well as other fun bookish links, so don't forget to check all of those out, and I will see you guys in my next video. Bye!